Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fab Fit Friday. That almost wasn't. I just got off of a podcast, Breaking Sewing Rules 2 with Tina, and there were a few other teachers on there, and then also, all of the audience, and I kept saying, I gotta go, and I finally left. Pat was in there with me. You can call me the fabric bending wizard. I was telling him how I used the thingamabopper, the vise to squeeze my jeans. Good morning, Andrea. Hi, Diane. Welcome. And hi, Victoria. You can't sew yet, but you're getting better every day. Yay. Go, Victoria. All right. It may look to you like this video has a sepia tone to it because during the podcast my webcam died, or it broke, or something's wrong, so I have to use my webcam on my laptop today, so I'm sorry for that, but at least you can see me. And what I want to do today is talk about knit fabrics, and I want to talk about how to tell if the knit fabric you want to use for your pattern is appropriate for your pattern, or if it has the right amount of stretch. So I'm going to show you some knit math. Then I'm going to introduce a new series I'm starting next week. We're going to make a strippy knit skirt. Let me just stop and say hi to Polly and Jeanette and Barbara and Carla. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, it's raining. It's kind of dismal over here now too. But hopefully it'll get perkier. It's kind of gray and yucky out. So yes, I still have my cold, which is now all up in my head, and I feel like I'm in a fishbowl, so just bear with me here. I didn't get a lot of work done this week because of that cold. I'm really trying to rest to get it out of my body. So what I'd like to do now is show you something really fun that happened. Hey, Karen, welcome. The other night, I was watching TV with my husband, and it was 8 o'clock, and I was literally ready to go to bed because I was not feeling well, and there was a delivery at the door. So my husband got it, and he brought it back to me. He goes, oh, it's for you. So I'm going to show you what I got. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Let me switch my camera. Hey, Tana. Oh, you're going to be 80 today. I love you. Enjoy that. Balmy weather. Hey, Mary. 2 feet of snow in upper Michigan. Wow. I know that must have been a pain, but I have to admit I'm a little jealous. Like, we get nothing here anymore. We used to get a couple good storms a year, and we've really gotten, 5 inches this year. So maybe I need to move to upper Michigan. All right, let me just switch my view here. All right, this is going to be the next issue of Threads coming out, and I subscribe to this, so I will get my copy that I pay for. But these 2 issues came in the mail, and if you write an article for Threads magazine, they send you two issues in the mail for free. So I got this open, and I'm like, well, what's going on here? I did not write an article for the spring issue. So I started flipping, and as I flipped along, very good article by my good friend Pam Howard. Oh, no, this is Kenneth King. He's showing how to draft this. That's nice. But then my friend Pam Howard shows how to do linings in here, which was very, very nice as well. All right, pattern review, blah, 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 blah. And then I got to this. This is the article I wrote in 2005 on how to make this strippy sheer fabric skirt by creating a shaped facing, using interfacing and then fusing it on to make this part fit. So I was like all excited. They adapted it, and look, it's a Threads favorite. There it is. I'm so excited. Oops. So anyway, I got to thinking about this, and the other thing I thought was really fun, I get to see myself 20 years younger. Look at how cute I am. It was a full 2-day shoot to do this article in their studio, and I really had a blast. So you can see, you basically take strips of fabric, sew them together, and you can either leave them raw or do a little narrow finish, you know, different ways to finish them. And then this is an example of creating the shaped facing out of interfacing right here. And then what you do is you fuse the facing onto the fabric to hold all those pleats down after you pleat your fabric. And you fuse it on, and then you fit it and sew a zipper, and you get the skirt. Am I selling autograph copies? Oh, that's so sweet that you're asking me about autograph copies. I always think it's very nice when someone asks me to sign a pattern during a class. All right, so I want to show you something else exciting. I'm going to shake my table, right? Is the image shaking? No, it's not, because I figured out how to clamp my camera so it's not on the table anymore. So that makes me happy as well. But what I want to say here is they added this version of the skirt. They adapted it and then added this. This is also very cool because it's all raw edged here and it's raw edged up here. And then they used a ribbon to to sort of stop it from fraying below the ribbon. So that's a cool idea as well. So basically what I'm going to do here is I am going to, starting next week, do a knit version. Okay. And what was I going to say? So I'm going to figure out how to do a knit version of this. So for the next few weeks, that's what I'm going to be working on during Fab Fit Friday. So if you want to follow along with me, this would be a very doable project to do with me, because I know a lot of times I show you guys how to do stuff and I'm not really sure if you actually try it or not, but this is something that's pretty instant gratification. So I'm going to start that next week. And I really had intended to have more ready to go to show you, but like I said, I'm really not feeling well. I'm gonna have to maybe try to rest a little more than I've been resting, because it's going, but it's also been lingering. So enough talk about that. Let me just see here. Barbara says, wow, congrats. Thank you. Autograph copies, Kim, that's so nice. And Mary says, Threads have their learning classes on sale. Your pants class is listed. Oh, that's cool. Is it 35% off, Mary? Because here's a fun fact. Hey, Sylvia, if you want to get Threads 35, I think that coupon code that I just put in the chat, THR35, I think you can always get any class for 35% off. So you can get it when you feel like getting it, because that's a coupon code that's always available. Oh, Carla said I'm running out for a copy, but not right now. I really think it's important to support Threads magazine, though, because I resubscribed. I lapsed my subscription, and then I went back to it when I realized that if people don't support printed magazines, they're going to go away. And once they go away, people will be sad about that. I mean, there's a lot of free digital. There's also a digital version of Threads, which is nice. But there's something about turning the pages and having it that I really enjoy. So, I highly recommend supporting Threads magazine and subscribing to it so it will stay around. That's my thought on that. And Carla's going to go get a copy right after this stream is over. Oh, Sylvia's saying, I hope you're okay. I am. I'm totally going to make it. I'm just tired of not feeling well. So I'm going to try to rest and get it, blah, blah, blah. Oh, the Threads magazine is getting smaller and smaller. It is, but you know what? If more people subscribe to it, it would get bigger and bigger again, because that's their budget. And I have a feeling that's kind of why they probably, adapted this because they didn't have to pay me to adapt it, right? So it's a nice article that they paid me for many moons ago, 20 years ago. But I mean, that's a symptom of the fact that people aren't subscribing to it. It is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I don't know. I just feel very nostalgic for it because early on, before J. Stern Designs was a thing, I was writing for them. So that was, that was, my thing way back in the day before I knew I was going to do J. Stern Designs. So I have a special place in my heart. Plus, it used to be right in my home state of Connecticut. Oh, Mary's is telling me to put a glug of bleach in my dishwasher. So to get rid of those germs, that's a good idea. Oh, Sylvia says, don't forget to like this video. Thank you, Sylvia. We're 32 strong. Yay. All right. So again, because I'm not really prepared, I'm going to be completely honest with you, but I want to show you, I want to do something about knits. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it very simple, but you can apply it to anything. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I think I'm going to draw myself a pattern. Hold on one second. I'm just going to get a piece of paper because, of course, I didn't do that yet. Let me just get my scissors. I have them. Okay, hold on one second. All right. So I got a question about, okay, I want to make your pattern, but you say I need, 40% stretch, and my fabric has less stretch or more stretch than you're recommending. So I want to give you a simple way to figure out whether the fabric you're working with has, has the right amount of stretch. Barbara says, OBTW, you're still cute. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Pat says, the class from Pattern Review was great this week. Oh, I showed how to do the fly from the Sorcia Classic Slim Trousers. Yeah, Pat, I made all of those samples because my head was swimming and I was afraid I would forget steps. That's how it was going on Wednesday. But I've saved them and I'm going to use them every time I teach now. So it was worth the effort to do that. Tana says, I'm retired from newspaper production and all the print is on the way out, especially newspapers. Magazines are very expensive to produce. That's why they cost so much. I know. But again, I feel like if we don't support them, we're going to be sad. Okay, so I'm just going to do something simple here. I'm going to do a center front. I'm going to do a neckline. I'm going to do a shoulder. Then I'm going to do an armhole. And then I'm going to do a side seam like this. So this is, let's say you wanted to make this t-shirt pattern like this. And let's say this pattern was designed for 25% stretch. So the goal is 25% stretch. And let's say you want to make this out of something that really doesn't have 25% stretch. I'm going to use an extreme example here. I have some scuba knit. So let's say we wanted to to make a t-shirt out of something like this, or just a knit top. All right, so what I'm going to do here is, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to mark a 10-inch piece so you can see that it's 10 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a line right here. You can see that, right? Oh. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 to here. All right, this is a 10-inch piece of the knit from here to here. And what I want to do, first of all, I want to double it. So actually, I need to make this a little bit longer. And the reason why I'm doubling it is you want to underestimate your stretch. If I stretch it single layer, you'll see I'll be able to stretch it. Let me just make this a little wider so we can see more of what I'm doing. If I put it here and I stretch it like this, I can stretch it all the way out to here, right? But if I double it, and I do that, it's harder to stretch. And the thing about stretch fabric is, put it in your head, if something is going to stretch, or if something can stretch 50%, you might not want it to stretch 50% because it might feel too tight. So I would do this with any fabric, even if the fabric that you purchase says that it is 25% and that's what you need. So what I'm going to do here is I'm literally going to, I'm not going to hold it like this, because if I hold it like this, I can stretch it more as well. That's not a good read on your fabric. You want to hold it down. So I'm going to hold it down with my hand like this, and then I'm going to hold it against my thumb like this. So I'm getting a good like 3-inch piece that I'm holding. And I'm going to stretch that. Okay, so you can see I can stretch this 2 inches past the 10 inches. And then the other thing I want to look at is when I stretch it past the 2 inches, does it snap back? Meaning, does it come right back to that 2-inch mark? So this is my 2-inch mark. I'm going to put a ruler here. So you can see that's my 2-inch mark where that ruler is. I'm going to snap it and we're going to see if it snaps back. I can tell you, since I've been stretching the scuba knit, it's slowly been growing and not coming back. And the way I can show you that is if I put this on a line here, this is my 10 inches I had marked when I started. If I measure it now, it's 10 1/4 inch. So it's actually, as I stretch it, it's going back, but it's also growing a little bit. So you want to know if your fabric has recovery, which means it would snap right back, or if it grows. And then you also want to know how far you can stretch it past 10 inches. I can stretch it 2 inches. Now, when I stretch it 2 inches, I'm not really using my muscle here. I can easily stretch it. I could stretch it 3 inches, but then I'm using the muscles in my hand and I can see that the fabric is starting to strain. So you want to use that as a guide. Like if you can just gently stretch it 2 inches, that means it's not going to feel tight on your body. But if you have to use all your muscle to stretch it, then it's going to feel snug. So we know that this scuba knit has 20% stretch because it stretches 2 inches for 10 inches. All right, so now here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to our pattern. Let me make this a little less bright so it's easier to see. I think that's probably better. Oh, Janice says this info is so timely. Oh, good. I'm glad this is helping. All right, so what you're going to do is to see if your fabric has enough stretch. I'm going to go to my widest part on my pattern, which would be at my bust level. So if you wanted to take a quick measurement from your shoulder down to your bust and just make a note of where that is. And then I'm just going to mark off my seam allowance here. I don't want to include that. I'm going to measure across here. And this measures 6 3/4 inches. Now doubled, that would be 12 13.5 inches. So the bust in the front is 13.5 inches. And then you would measure the back of the pattern as well, and you would get the total measurement. So I would say if the front measures 13.5, let's say the back measures like 12, because the back is at the bust is usually wider on women than the back. I mean, the front is usually wider than the back. So the total circumference would be 25.5 inches. All right. So what you're then going to do is you're going to measure your bust. All right. And if you're like me and you have a large bust, I'm just going to stand up and show you. So you see, I've got a pretty significant bust here. Let's move my legs out of the way. And so I'm going to measure around. And I mean, my full bust measures like 44 inches, or 45 inches. No, 44. About 44 inches. Let's pretend, because this is a small pattern, I want to make it like something that's actually useful. Let's say this is a size small pattern. The bust measurement was 36 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my table view here. All right, so let's say the pattern is 25.5. The body measurement is 36. Okay, if I minus 36 from 25.5, I get 8.5 inches, right? Because I'm sorry, half, 5, 1, 1. Let me just do it. So I get the half, 1, 25 inches, sorry, 1. So it's 11.5 inches different. So So the fabric has to stretch around the full bust 11.5 inches because you only have 25.5 inches of real estate, meaning the piece of fabric you're going to have wrapped around your bust is 25.5. You're 36 inches. It's 11.5 inch difference. So that's what you need to know. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in a little bit of a different color. So the difference is 11.5. So going back to our example, we have fabric that has 20% stretch, or 2 inches for every 10 inches. So how many 10 inches are there in 25? There's just 2. So that means it's going to, so in a 25.5, we're going to drop the half just to make it easy math. In a 25-inch pattern, that knit is only going to stretch 4.5 inches because it'll stretch 2 inches for each 10 and 1 inch for 5. So 4.5 inches is how much your fabric will stretch, and you need 11.5 inches. So if I did that math, so we'd have a half, 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 7.5 inches of stretch to work with this pattern. Now that is a lot, and usually when you're doing this kind of math, you're closer. I picked something that had a teeny little pattern with fake measurements. But my point is, the goal is to find out what the pattern measures, find out what the body measures, find the difference, and then add up how many inches your fabric will stretch in the given amount of length you have. So that's how this is the simple formula you can use for any pattern. You can use it for pants, you can use it for shirts, anything. Now in this situation, if you really wanted to make this shirt out of that scuba knit, you would have to add you'd have to add like 2 inches of ease in each quarter to give you 8 more inches. And that's kind of a lot. So that brings up my next point, that the fabric you pick should be appropriate for the pattern you're working with. And if you want to do something that's really out of the box, then you would have to do some serious adjusting to get this to work with a 20% fabric. All right, so I just want to check in with you. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? I think if my head was not in a fishbowl, I would have come up with a better example. But the whole point is you want to measure how much you have in your pattern, compare that to your body measurement, wherever it is, find the difference, and then see if the amount of stretch that your fabric will give you is enough. Now, let's say we did this and the opposite happened. Let's say we did this and you needed 11 inches of stretch, but your fabric would stretch, 15 inches. If the fabric is stretching significantly more than the fabric required for the pattern, you might want to go down a size. So it works in both directions. So that's how you can tell if the fabric you're working with has enough stretch. And then you want to consider the type of knit you're working with. Is it going to give you the look you want? Now, scuba fabric is very structural. If I made a tee out of it, it would literally hang on my body like a tube. It wouldn't, it might stretch to my bust and then hang straight below. It's not going to drape and it's not going to be soft. So you'd want to pick the fabric that works for the project you want to make. So if you're making a t-shirt, you want to find, soft t-shirt knit. If you're making something that's structural, go with something that's got more heft. If you're making pants, go with something bottom weight like Ponte knit or double knits. So that's my little thing about picking knits. Oh, so Mary says that when she works with knits, she never wears negative ease. She always will make the size of the pattern to have some ease in it. And that's a good thing to do if that's what's comfortable for you. So you can use this knit math I showed you to figure out if you're going to have enough ease. So like, let's say your final answer was you needed the fabric to stretch 10 inches to just make the pattern. Well, then you're going to have to add more inches for the ease. So you're going to have to actually have more stretch than it gives you. So that's a good point, Mary. I know a lot of people don't want things squeezing them. So that's a good point. Just add the amount of extra ease you want into those numbers so you can make sure you're giving yourself enough ease. So in that whole frame of reference here, next week we're going to start the knit skirt project. That is going to be like this. And I want to look at it again just to show you what's going on here. So this skirt is basically made up of pleated fabric, and it hangs down like the pleats release and it hangs nice and soft. So are we going to want to use a scuba knit for something like this? No, we're not. We're going to want to work with sheer and lightweight knits. Things that are very lightweight, like tissue knits, maybe even some stretch lace knits, sheer knits. We want sheer knits, lightweight knits. And I have one example. So this is going to be incorporated into my skirt. And if you've probably seen me wearing this because I made a cardi out of this. You can see it's sheer. It's very lightweight. It's sort of a burnout knit. It's got some stretch, but here's the thing. For this project, we don't care how much these fabrics stretch because we're gonna stitch them to, I mean, we want them to stretch a little bit, but, well, actually, I'm lying now. We will need to make sure that they stretch enough to get over your hip and fit at the waist. So scratch that I said that. So next week, I will show you what my formula is for figuring out the stretch of these strips. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pick another coordinating soft knit to create a shaped facing to stitch it to. So it's almost like we'll use the top of the knit facing to finish the edge of the skirt. And we might have to put some elastic in there depending on if you have a very defined waist. We'll put some elastic in there to make it snug there. Or we could have it be a little bit loose and make an elastic casing so you have slight gathers there so it will go over your hip. I'll figure that math out for next week. But basically we're going to create a shaped facing out of knit. I'm going to use a variety of striped fabrics. I'm going to find a variety of knits that I can strip together to make the skirt, and then we're going to sew it together. So that's what I'm going to start on next week. And I think what I'll do is I will put together a little worksheet for you. So I'll have that ready for you to download either during Fab Fit Friday next week or after Fab Fit Friday, depending on how the week goes. So you'll be able to follow along with me if you want to. So I'm kind of excited about this. It was so fun to see, myself 20 years ago. I was like, oh, look at me. And it was a surprise because no one told me they were going to do it. So very exciting. And I thought I would sort of piggyback off and make like a little threads extra where I'll show you how to, make the skirt in the issue, but then also, make it a different way. So I'm kind of excited about that. So does anybody have any questions? Is anyone going to make the skirt with me? Anybody? Because after we find out if anybody's going to make the skirt with me, I'm going to sign off because I'm all done for today. All right, so I don't know if anyone's going to follow along with me. I hope somebody will, but I'm very excited about this. And like I said, I will have a worksheet for you next week to help you get all the supplies you need and the different kinds of knits. And I'll show you the different kinds of things I'm combining. I didn't have time to go shopping or look through my stash. You know what I mean? So I will have all of that ready for you next week, and I'm super excited about it. Oh, Judy's going to do it with me. Yay, Judy. All right, so Janice is going to maybe make one for her daughter-in-law. I love that. I mean, there's no pressure. You do not have to make it, but I think it's going to be a fun project, and I'm excited to work on that. And I'll make it simple so you don't need anything fancy. I think it's going to be fun. So I want to thank everybody who's going to sew along with me, and I want to thank everybody else who's just going to watch along with me. That's fine too. All right, so Barbara's asking me, do we need the article? I'll try have. Okay, so you do not need to buy this as much as I would love for you to subscribe to Threads, because I'm going to give you the step-by-step for the knit version. So you don't necessarily need to have this, but I will, so don't worry about that if you're not, but, maybe consider subscribing to the magazine just because and I know the people behind the magazine are wonderful, so I always want to support that. Carla says, maybe I'll cruise through my stash and see what's available. Tana says, I'm always open to new techniques. Could always use it somewhere. Excellent, excellent. Sylvia's telling me to get some rest. I'm going to. Oh, and by the way, while I'm resting, hold on. Let me see. I have become enchanted with mini granny squares. So while I'm resting on the couch, I'm making these teeny little granny squares. And I'm going to make this into a blanket. Guess how many of these squares I need? 1,020. So this might be a year-long project, but while I'm laying on the couch, I'm going to do a little granny squaring. Okay, so Barbara says, feel better, get rest, get lots of rest. I'm going to get some rest. That's the thing. I never want to rest. I hate resting, but I'm going to rest. So anyway, I thank everybody for hanging out with me. 1,020, Sylvia. Plus 20. So again, this is this is going to be the crocheted little blanket is going to be a year-long project. I can tell already. But by the time I'm done making this blanket, I will be a pro at granny squares. I actually had to watch tutorials to remember how to make them before I got started. So anyway, okay. Yeah, see, Carla gets me. She can't still for that long. I have a hard time sitting still. That's my problem. Did I finish that skirt you were knitting? My gray entrelac skirt, Mary? Yes, I did. I finished it. And you know what? I'll share that with you next week because I have it on a shelf in a closet. I did finish it. So my knitting and crochet are my after dark projects. I don't work on them during the day because I'm working on my J Stern Designs work. But after dinner, if I'm watching TV with my husband, I like to have something to do. And just so you know, this cool tool that I shared, see, this is how I lay there and I focus this on my crochet. That's how I see. So I use my little cool tool. If anyone's wondering if I actually use the cool tools I share on Cool Tools, I do. I use almost them all. Okay. Judy's going to miss me in Puyallup. I know, Judy, it's so expensive for me to go there. That's why I'm not going there. Maybe I'll go again because it was so much fun. I loved it the year I went. Maybe I'll go next year. But anyway, thank you for all your well wishes. And if you need that light, Carla, just go to my YouTube channel and put in, light cool tools and it'll pop up. And I can put the link in the description below after I get off too. Okay, so I'm going to go now because I'm going to go flop on the couch. So that's what I'm doing. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and I will see you next week. And hopefully by next Friday, I'll be 100%. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.